Okay, this is Movie of the Week, and it is 2013's Japanese film Unforgiven. And it is a remake of the 1992 film that Clint Eastwood directed and starred in, Unforgiven. So this movie stars Ken Watanabe, which is how I kind of found out about this movie. I would say this is pretty unknown, because, well, I haven't heard anyone talking about it. I didn't really know what it was until a couple weeks ago when I looked up Ken Watanabe's filmography. And I really enjoyed this movie. As a standalone film, this would have been much better. If I had not seen Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven, this would be so much better. But because I had seen the original one and I like it so much, I was constantly comparing, and it didn't do the Japanese one justice to compare it. But I think this movie overall is really good. You can still totally enjoy this movie. If you haven't seen the original one and you just want to watch a great Japanese movie, then I suggest you this. You don't have to see the original to get the remake or anything like that, because this movie does stand on its own. It is essentially almost... It's the complete same story with just like little bits and twists here and there. There's some really great stuff with what was happening in Japan at this time. I think it's set in would be the 1800s in Japan. Everyone is pretty much getting guns now. The samurai order has pretty much been diminished because no one really needs samurai anymore. And Ken Watanabe is sort of this older man. And they decide to go hunt down these two guys who cut up a prostitute and get reward money for it. Essentially the same as the other one. They're just with differences here and there. What I did like about this movie is Ken Watanabe was a samurai, so he did have a code of honor. And he did what he had to do to survive, and you see that throughout the movie, and there's painful memories and awful things, stories being told of what he'd done. But it's nothing like the original one with that Will Murray character. In the original one was just a horrible villainous character that you felt sorry for and you sympathised with. But in this one, you kind of get the feeling Ken Watanabe was a bit of a hero, and he's done some horrible shit, but you still like him. Like, I didn't have mixed emotions about him like I did with the original Unforgiven. But that's okay. This movie looks stunningly amazing. The shots are perfectly set up. Like, the cinematography is just so good in this movie. Just the landscapes are truly incredible. I think that because this movie is made more recently than, of course, 1992, it does look much better than Clint Eastwood's movie. That's not to say that this doesn't have its flaws. It's sometimes felt that this was trying way too hard to be like an exact remake. Like, they were putting stuff in that could have been taken out that worked in the original movie, but not necessarily this one. I'm talking about the stuff with their interpretation of Little Bill and his men and what goes on in his town with this with this samurai who comes in. That felt very forced just because it was in the original, and it worked in the original, but I don't know why it didn't work here. It just felt just really forced, like they had to put it in. And I think they could have just taken that out, because this movie is a story driven movie. It is a character study of Ken Watanabe and his transition, trying to forget his past and move on, but also people just keep dragging it back up, and I really enjoyed that. So I think this movie also had a much better cultural significance, because there are these Ainu people, which I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right or wrong, but these Ainu people look horribly oppressed by the Japanese army or government or whatever was oppressing them, and Ken Watanabe is sympathetic towards them. I think we kind of get a vibe that his wife was part of these people, and also he's travelling. One of his travelling companions, the young kid, is half Ainu himself. So I liked all this stuff with that. It really increased the movie. It kind of brought it some individuality, setting it apart from the original movie. That saying though, the characters, Ken Watanabe is an amazing character. He's an amazing actor, one of my favourite Japanese actors. He brings it every time he does a movie, and you believe him as an old samurai warrior. You just do. He's been in The Last Samurai, that Tom Cruise movie, but this movie, it's way more realistic of a samurai movie. You know, you buy that. You buy into the fact that he was once probably this really great warrior, and now he's just trying to forget that life. So I really liked his character. The cocky kid, I don't know his name, but in the original one it was the Schofield kid, and he come off as a fucking dick, and I just didn't like him at all. But for some reason, when Japanese actors in movies and TV and anime, when they do like a cocky character, they're likable. And it's weird, it's a weird contrast. So I really liked this character, even though I hated it in the original one. I did not like that guy. The guy in this new one is great. I really enjoyed it. He was a great actor, and he was one of the best parts about the movie, I think. I think the biggest change, or one of the biggest changes, is the ending. I'm not going to ruin the ending, but if you've seen the original Unforgiven, you know how it ends, and one of the best ending scenes in any movie. Clint Eastwood's character just comes in and just fucks up the entire saloon, just goes apeshit, and it is cool. This movie, kind of similar, but I felt it was sort of a bit anticlimactic, because it's building to this, building to this, building to this, and then you get it, and it's like, okay, well, that was cool, but it could have been much better. I think it was just because it was so trying to go for realism. I wanted to see some better samurai fighting. When I found out about this movie, I was like, oh my god, everyone's gonna have katana. It's gonna be fucking awesome. They're gonna be trying to kill each other with swords. The action scenes are gonna be great. But then I realized this is in the 1800s, when Japan was starting to get guns. So there's only like 3 or 4 characters in this who actually carry katanas and use them, and I was a little gutted about that. But Ken Watanabe, it's awesome. It's an awesome scene. And when I first watched the original Unforgiven, I'm pretty sure I felt that same way, that it was very anticlimactic. But now when I watch it, it's fucking awesome. So maybe this movie, I have to give it some time, I have to revisit it later on, and maybe I'll like it even more. But the shots in this are beautiful, the performances are great, some of the characters are very cartoonish, typical of Japan though, to make over-the-top characters. It felt like if they got a little more freedom to be free with the script, and not try to make a close adaptation remake of Clint Eastwood's movie, if they just took certain points and played it out instead of just trying to follow it precisely, it would have been much better, I feel. But Unforgiven is a great movie, stands on its own. If you've got some time to kill and you want to watch a foreign movie, great movie to see. So that's been Movie of the Week. I hope you enjoy.